Hey guys, this is Ella, and this is my second Google Hangout of the year. We're a few minutes early, so I'm just going to hang on and see if there's anybody else that joins us before I go any further. All right, well, let's make a start. So this month, I thought it was only fitting that I do my Google Hangout on how to build a booty. Particularly for me this year, it's all about getting a bigger butt, particularly for on stage. So on my YouTube channel, you'll actually see a video there of a workshop that I held last weekend with an osteopath that I work very closely with and my good friend Hattie Boydell. So head on over to that and check it out. There's some really good things on there, but I just thought I would go over a few of those things that we went through at the workshop on my Hangout today, and also talk about probably a little secret, number one thing that you're not doing that's probably going to get you the best results in terms of building the butt. So I'm going to talk about how to, as well as the best exercises to do for it, and that little secret ingredient that's going to get you those extra booty gains. Now, when you're training, you could do any booty building exercise out there, but it's just not going to get you the results if you can't to switch on. So if you're doing a squat or a deadlift or a hip extension and you're not feeling it in your bum, you're maybe feeling it in your quads, and you just can't get your butt to fire, it's not going to grow. If that's your ultimate goal, a bigger booty, and you're doing all these booty building exercises and it's not growing, it's because you can't feel the muscle. So the first thing that you want to start doing is getting your mind-muscle connection. Think about the muscle that you want to work when you do an exercise. And before we do all that, I guess what you want to do is test to see if your butt is working and if it is working efficiently. So there's a couple of tests you can do. There are some unilateral, which is on one leg, and some bilateral, so on two legs. Now, the reason why you do unilateral tests is to see if you've got a weakness or an instability on one side, which will really sort of show up when you're on one leg. So head on over to my YouTube channel, and the tests you will find in there. So you can do the unilateral tests on, see if you've got an instability or an imbalance on one side, and then do the bilateral, so do the test on two legs. The test for two legs is really to see where your weight will be load. So if you're squatting, for example, if you favor your right side more, when you're squatting under load, there's more load going to be distributed onto that side. So when you're doing your unilateral work, if you've found you've got an instability on your left or your right, you want to work on strengthening up that weak side. So head on over and check out those tests. The second thing is the secret ingredient is the activation tests, activation techniques, sorry. You'll also find these on my YouTube channel with the workshop that I held last weekend. And activation techniques are important to get that mind-muscle connection. They're really good to do routine before a session, or even during your session. Actually, if you're going through a bit of a squat session or hip extensions and you're just like, oh, I'm not really feeling it, out of the exercise that you're doing and do a couple of sets of the activation tests or the activation techniques and really get your butt to switch on and then jump back into your sets again. So there's a couple of acts that I really like doing. They're on my, check those out. There's a few on there. And the reason why I like them is it really turns on before you get into your squat session or your deadlift session or your hip extension session. It gets mind-muscle connection happening. I personally can really feel a burn doing all the body weight activation techniques before I've done anything else. And that's a really good sign that my butt is my mind muscle connection happening before I get under the bar and start putting load on there. With your activation techniques, it's not fatiguing the muscles. So you don't want to go into your session tired. It's just about getting them to engage and switch on. So if you're feeling a little bit of a burn, that's good. That's what you want to feel. Take your time and go through those activation techniques. Not all of them will work for you. Do them all, try them all out, and find one that works for you and incorporate that into your warm-up routine. Something else that you can do during the day to get your butt to fire, particularly if you've got an office job where you're sat down for a long time, is put a timer on your phone for it to go off every hour. So you're just going to stand up and do 20, 30 seconds of butt squeezes. So just standing up and squeezing your butt. Your glutes are a stabilizing muscle, and when you're sat down for prolonged periods of time, they actually stop stabilizing. So it's hard for you to spend 7 hours in an office sat down and then go into the gym and do a session and expect your butt to fire, because it's just not going to happen. That's why these activation techniques are really important when they come into play before your sessions and during the day. The more you can get your butt to fire, the more it's going to be productive in the training session that you're doing. So that's the tests and the activation techniques. Take a look at those and give them a try. I'd love to know your feedback if you've done any of the activation techniques before your sessions, or you're doing them in the office and you've got some funny looks. I'd love to hear some feedback. So please drop that in either on my YouTube account or my Facebook page. Okay, so you've tested your butt, it works. You've activated it, you've got your glutes firing and they're working strong. Now it's time to do the booty building program. Now, my 3 favorite exercises to really build the butt are hip extensions. Hip extensions are a great way of changing up the stimulus without changing the exercise. You can do hip extensions in so many different ways. They're either called hip extensions, hip thrusts, glute thrusts. You can change the stimulus by doing them from the floor, doing them from a bench or a rack, adding a band, changing the tempo, changing the reps. It's a really good exercise that can be done for anybody. So from beginners to experienced lifters, you will all get a benefit from doing hip extensions quite safely as well. If you think about the squat or the deadlift, they're big compound exercises that if you're not really sure or experienced in the lift, it can be quite dangerous. But hip extensions take away all that, and they're very simple to do and very, very effective. So hip extensions, one of my favorites. The second one is reverse hypers. Now, these are also on my workshop from the other weekend as an activation technique. They're an isolation exercise that really target the glutes when done properly, because you've got to be really careful not to use your lower back with this one. But when done properly, they really isolate and target the glutes, and you can get a really good burn with this. It's an activation technique, but you can also add that into your programming. I find that combining reverse hypers with squats or hip extensions is a really nice combination. It's really good sort of to come off your squats and go straight into reverse hypers, or come off your hip extensions and go straight into reverse hypers is a little bit of a finisher. So reverse hypers, again, very simple and very straightforward to do. You can do them on a box or a bench, anything that you can sort of hang your hips off and get a knee bend in there as well. And my third one is going to be back extensions. Back extensions are a funny one. You see these done incorrectly a lot of the time on Instagram or Facebook. It's called a back extension, but you don't actually extend through the lower back. Yet your rib cage is down and your abs are braced, and it's I guess more of a hip extension. You're coming back up into hip extension. So really tucking the hips under and squeezing the butt. Again, a nice one for the glutes. You can get a little bit of hamstrings in there as well. And again, it's a simple exercise that can be done with beginners or experienced lifters without any sort of stress, any stress on the lower back if done correctly, and without much instruction as well. So my 3 top exercises for building the booty would be hip extensions, done in all the various ways that they can be done. Reverse hypers, something very simple and very effective for isolating the glutes. And back extensions. You can do back extensions on a 45-degree angle bench or a 90-degree angle bench. On the 90-degree, if you play around with your foot position, you're going to target the glutes in a different area. I like to have my feet pointed and turned out to really hit the glute med. So if you're on back extensions, play around with your foot position and see if you can feel the difference where it's hitting you or where you're targeting your glutes. So with all that, you can't put on muscle without being in a calorie surplus. Now, that means eating more than you are burning, eating more than your basal metabolic rate. So if you are trying to put on muscle, or you are trying to build your butt, or you are trying to, add more muscle somewhere else, you need to be eating more, and you need to be able to track this in some manner. When it comes to building muscle, protein is super important. And now I know girls are always a bit wary or a bit scared about eating too much protein or steering clear of protein shakes for fear they're going to get bulky. And it's just old school bro science. Protein has actually got a thermogenic effect, which means while you're eating it, it burns calories while it's in digestion. So you're actually only consuming maybe 70% of the protein that you eat. So if you're eating 100 grams of protein, you're actually only going to be taking in about 70 calories of that, 70 grams of that. It helps you feel fuller for longer, so it'll stop you from snacking. And it's so important for muscle repair and building. So if you don't have enough food in your body and you're trying to build muscle, it's just not going to happen. Protein is there for building and repairing muscle tissues. So you want to make sure you're eating in a calorie surplus, and that means tracking your food in some way. Protein has got to be a key factor for you when you're doing that. And you've got to make sure that you're eating more than you're burning. So if you're someone that burns 500-600 calories in a training session, but you're only eating 12 or 1300, you're just not eating enough. So if you're at a point when you've hit a plateau and you're sort of like, I'm doing all this exercise and my body's not changing, I'm just not losing any fat and I'm not putting on any muscle, you need to look at how much it is you're eating and how much is you're burning, and what percentage of that is protein that you're actually getting into your diet as well. The only way you're going to know is by actually tracking and being precise with that. You can't sort of guess it. Whenever you sit down and think, whenever you don't track what you're consuming, you always miss things out. So the only way to be successful with that is to track what you're eating using an app like MyFitnessPal. Being really particular with how much protein you eat. Protein has got to be your one focus. And the other thing I want to mention is that building muscle is a very slow process. It doesn't happen overnight, just like fat loss doesn't happen overnight. And the one thing that I see on social media and Instagram in particular is these transformation pictures from popular Instagram accounts that show, progress of, building shape and changing a body composition over a 3 or 6 month period. And the progress that's sort of displayed isn't actually achievable for girls that don't want to use an enhancement drug. And that's something that they don't often publicize, that the results that they've had or the results that they've got is not from just hard work, training and eating. It's actually from the use of some form of enhancement drug. Now, I'm not saying all accounts are like that. I'm just saying that for the most part, if you're seeing a massive change in muscle gain for a female over a short period of time, the chances are it's not going to be natural. So when it comes to your progress, especially building muscle for females, it's a very slow process. We just don't have enough testosterone in us to be able to build as much muscle as guys do. So you've got to be patient with your results, and you've also got to not focus on anybody else's results. Don't scroll through Instagram or Facebook and see someone else's progress over a 3 or 6 month period. It's the same time that you've been doing your thing and saying to yourself, oh, well, how come they've got those results and I don't? Everybody's different. Everybody's body responds differently to different training stimuluses and different macros. And then you just don't know what it is they're doing outside of the picture that they're posting on social media. So stay focused on your goals and what you're doing to achieve them. Be patient with it. It will happen. If you are consistent with your efforts, you'll see change. But just be patient. Be consistent and be precise. So if you know you are giving 100% to your training sessions, you know you're hitting your macros, and you know you're getting enough protein, and you know you're eating more than you're burning, then your muscle growth will happen. So be patient with that. Everyone's journey is different. Just focus on yours. I hope that's sort of given you a little bit of an insight on how to build a booty. My journey is always ongoing when it comes to the booty gains. I will be posting a photo of my booty transformation over the last 3 or 4 years. I've managed to go from pancake to somewhat of a little butt. It does take time. It's ongoing. And I hope that you can get something out of this that's going to help you with your journey, whether it be fat loss, muscle gain, or anything else that you have in between. Please check out my workshop on my YouTube channel with all the activation techniques, the tests that you can do there. And we've given you the examples of them. So we run through the exercises there. So if you're not sure on any of those, you can check them out on the workshop. The exercises that I mentioned, the hip extensions, the back extension, and I'm not sure of the reverse hyper yet, but those exercises are also on my YouTube channel with a bit of a description, so you can go and check those out as well. A little short one today, guys, but all my other information's out there, so if I've missed anything, it should follow up. Otherwise, drop me a message and I will get back to you. Ciao.